It's MLB slate, and last night I didn't really play much MLB. It didn't quite work out for me. It looked good at the beginning, the two-run homer from Vlad, and I thought I would be off to the races. Vlad, as we expected, Toronto and Texas totally unowned, and that was a good spot. But the more important thing was the football. We had, literally I had the 33-1 for. We had the chance at the 33 until the Jefferson catch for 15K, and then I would have been chopping with Sheets and 332 other people for the millionaire one, which would have been another, would have been a 20K plus winning night. Instead, it was like a $500 winning night for me. So little frustrating as showdowns tend to be, but certainly a lot of fun. And we're on something with these showdowns because every week I seem to have a shot to get the good one, and I end up with top 10 finishes. I'm really enjoying the single entries of the showdowns because you can definitely you're not going to have your lineup stooped as often. So, but it was this
was the 222 lineup I had, which I thought was pretty good.
That's a nice one too.
Yeah, this one didn't have Jefferson at all. So and so when we talked about online, it wasn't particularly earth shattering. But you know what, the Osborne with only 18%, he could have done a little better. He had a couple of drops.
Yeah. He did,
but he could have done a little better. Swift obviously smashed, but fading Jefferson made this I think reasonable in the and Hawkinson with a really nice last drive or two. You know what I mean? To get that second touchdown, obviously that really helped.
Yeah, no, that's nice for that one. And I cashed in one of I played two of the 222. I cashed in one of them. Unfortunately, the other one, that Hishbu lineup is the lineup that we had that we chopped the other. We would have been chopping the other one with.
Yes,
the exact lineup that I had, and it was also a little frustrating because I needed without the Jefferson. It would have been nice if Jordan Addison was at least on the field for the last drive. That was
right,
which was not expected. Anyway. But it was a fun night and ready to get into baseball today.
Well, and just to show you again, not to get too much into the football, but listen, this is the 222, so it's not obviously it's not the same as the lottery, but there are 3,000 people in it. It's not like there was nobody in this thing.
No.
And to take, to only chop this one way, I mean, there is literally not a play in here that's not logical. You know what I mean? Like you didn't have to be crazy. I mean, you put the most popular. I mean, one of the more popular players in the captain, and it's now even faded Jefferson in this lineup. You know what I mean?
I think we did leave what is the left amount on the left on the table? I think it was at 1,700 or so, though.
That's nothing. You know what I mean?
No, but that's what I'm saying. But
I guess
that was the one thing that maybe you could call slight differentiation, I guess.
Yeah.
But it was it was a great shot, and then when the final ended up, the lineup that ended up winning everything was the lineup with no Jalen Hurts, which was a little bit of the.
Well, that's this one.
Oh, that is that one. No, I'm talking about the Ishbu one though. The one. That's the one we were tied with was the with Jeff. We had Hurts, but we didn't have Jefferson. We didn't have Jefferson. So anyway, it was a fun night. We can. We're doing well with Showdown. The only Showdown night I said that we're not going to have a live thing for probably is going to be Sunday. But every other day we will be doing Showdowns, whether it's me and Rhodey, me and Sheets, or just me alone. I'm happy.
I'm glad they rewarded Smith by giving him that last goal line touchdown. I figured they were rigging everything to give Hurts the stupid 1-yard plunges.
Yeah.
Because Swift was great, man, and he was grinding it out, with all the rushing yards. I mean, give the dude the freaking ball at the one time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Jesus.
Yeah. Absolutely, he's doing all the work.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's we'll get your screen up, and then we'll go game by game here for the baseball slate. It's a 13 gamer. The weird thing that
hey, I'm sorry.
As Sheets is doing that here, we'll just.
Hello.
I'm going to go real quickly and just say something that I noticed. I think it's interesting that with pitching on this slate that the highest owned pitcher is definitely questionable, and I just think that my first thought is there's a lot of pitching that I don't really want, and we're gonna have to try and figure out which guys we actually do want.
So what my overall view is that I agree that the highest owned pitcher, which we'll get to, is certainly no lock, and what's neat about it is the way I'm looking at the second, not even the second group. There's 1, 2, 3. I mean, like 8 pitchers that I have like really close to one another in my rankings, and I don't think any of them are like the best pitchers on the slate either. You know what I mean? So it's gonna be interesting to see. Yeah. I'll probably play a full 50 lineups in in the relay throw again today. Just 'cause I think I need to get a lot of different things going on. But let's I'm sharing my screen. Let's get started.
Start off your thoughts with Tampa Baltimore.
Yeah, so Tampa Baltimore it's almost impossible to believe, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have like maybe seven stacks I'm interested in, and like 10 pitchers, and none of that comes from this game. So I have no Eflin, no Flaherty, no Tampa, no Baltimore.
Yeah, it seems like, look, Flaherty might be a reach. It's a guy to get different with. I guess that's the best thing I could say about it. And Eflin is very reasonable, but you're paying a lot for him. So, like, honestly, if I was max entering, I would definitely have both these guys in my list. But do I really want them? Not exactly. I mean, I definitely would keep them on the list, but like, it's just not all that exciting. But I'm going to feel that way about a lot of other pitching, and I don't think these guys are all that much worse. Just the weather in Baltimore today, seeing if there's anything maybe I missed. Let's see. Why is this? Oh, there we go. Yeah, so that's yesterday. Yeah, I'm sorry. Anyway, I think this game is mostly a pass for me as of right now. I mean, maybe I'll reconsider some stuff a little bit later. All right, we jump into the next one while I get for some reason my thing wasn't sorted out right.
You can take the time all you need, but I'm not going to give you too much time to do what you need to do because I don't have much this game either. I'll take the time to say that I don't have Bello listed as one of my top 10 pitchers. I will take the time to say that I don't have Berrios as one of my top 10 pitchers, and I don't really have Toronto or Boston. So I guess it's a big enough slate where I promise you I am going to be getting other guys, and other teams, but just not from this game.
Yeah, I think I'm in on Berrios. I don't really see if we're gonna. I mean, look, as an option, you know what I mean. Okay, we're gonna talk about like an option to instead of Canning. The Boston matchup is one that I definitely, when they're on the road, I don't shy away from much. I only have a 3.7 total today for what it's worth. Berrios has been pitching pretty well. He'll have his down games here and there, but you worry about the strikeouts a little bit with him. I'm curious to see what Boston. I'm ready for Boston just to run out the all rookies kind of lineup or something. They don't really have anything to play for. So they're not playing the Yankees anymore. This could be a spot where you get a really weak Boston lineup that people will say, oh, that makes Berrios in play later on. Well, I'm just saying it earlier in the day that I think there's a chance that happens. And I like Bello as a pitcher enough to where I don't really want to attack him. But, yeah, I'm not going to be able to play him either. So pretty much a cross-off for me. But I'm definitely open to Berrios as a pivot, which you're going to hear a lot from me this morning because that's how I feel basically about everyone. And then what team is Lucas Giolito on this week in the next game? So I think that both these pitchers, I think Giolito is in play. I feel weird saying it because I just feel like every day we see the same thing from Texas. It's like 5 runs in the first 3 innings. And Giolito is that guy. I also think that Texas is like, maybe it's not the right slate for it, but it's kind of an interesting contrarian stack. But it is great pitching weather with 6-mile-an-hour winds blowing in, 67 degrees only in Cleveland. So I am definitely open to the Giolito today, and he is another one of the pivots that I have, but not interested in hitting myself.
Yeah, I had Seager as a one-off yesterday, which was
nice.
Was obviously pretty good. I have Giolito as one of the many pitchers that I'll play today, and what's cool about it is that he's not. Listen, it's not completely binary, but he can have a really good game, and he can have -12 in this game, as you kind of alluded to.
Yeah.
Texas just bombs people, but Giolito doesn't care. He's going to bring it, and we'll see what happens. Sometimes they swing and miss. That's the way it goes. So I have him as kind of a high upside boomer bust type play. The other side is Gray. Interesting. I usually get to him, but I'm just not getting there today. And even though they don't project all that great on my metrics, you just have to play some Texas. I mean, against Giolito, you have to play every team against Giolito, and you have to play Texas against every team. So I'm pretty sure you have to play
Yeah.
Texas.
I'll just reiterate that really not good hitting conditions. So that's going to keep me off of the Texas side. But otherwise, I would totally agree with that. I started to say it, and then I just saw that it's kind of ugly. Although it's kind of ugly a lot of places today. So maybe I shouldn't be so dismissive. But like Giolito's given up 3 home runs in each of his last 3 starts. The weird part is his last start, he had 25 fantasy points. He gave up 3 home runs in that game. Like he just gives up bombs all the time. All right, so do we have the Mets next in Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Okay, we're on fire today, Sheets. We're on the same games.
Well, we've only had the one decision to make.
And, I still, hey, you know what? I'll take it. Anything, anytime it works, even if it's just lucky.
We'll definitely.
All right, so I am trying to figure out what to do with Hunter Green. I also think, and I know you hate how much you hate this person. I think that Peterson is in play. I think that the real thing for me is going to be playing some Hunter Green here, and that's probably what I stick with. But Peterson's going to look like a good play, and we know that there's definitely some downside. It is getting Cincinnati outside of Cincinnati, which is kind of nice. So I have both these guys as certainly options today. That's and no hitting for me here.
I actually agree with you. I think Peterson's reasonable here at 6,600. Just because of the context of the slate, there's just nothing that great here. There's a lot of decent options, but nothing like that you have to have. So I think Peterson at that price is pretty cheap. It's actually a little chillier here than it has been.
Yeah.
If that means anything. And Hunter Green, again, 9,100 is pretty healthy as far as the price goes. But hey, he certainly has upside, and he's in my list. I as I mentioned, I have like 8 pitchers I'm going to consider here, and he's one of them. So Giolito, Peterson, Green, I think they're all in there, and I don't have any of the hitting either. Yeah,
you have really low totals on 3 games today, and this is one of them. And it's because it's 70 degrees, but it is 13-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from left field, which also really helps Peterson out as a lefty. Anybody pulling the ball, you know what I mean? That's a pretty significant amount of wind. So that's why it's only a 7.5 total here. So I think both these guys, have to be in play just based on that alone. But you certainly like the upside for Green better than you would for the Peterson. While if you play Peterson, he's one of those guys you don't really want to watch pitch. All right, Minnesota and Chicago White Sox. You want to start off with this one?
Yeah, this is the first hitting that I like a little bit. So I have Minnesota. Was rating as one of the top 4 overall stacks between value and upside and all that stuff. As far as the pitching goes, so Bailey Ober, for a period of 3 starts there, was like almost 10K. He was 9,400, 10K, 10K. And I was wondering what the hell he was doing at 10K. Maybe it was the context of the slate or whatever it is, or maybe.
Remember they overpriced everyone when everybody called up the minor leaguers because there was all.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah, they raised everybody's prices.
And he hasn't really done anything, and he's now down to 8,500. I don't even have him in my list of viable pitchers, but I just brought it up just because he's a righty, he's against the White Sox, and he's been higher. That's the only reason I bring it up. But I like the Twins. And that's, I guess, my first hitting stack that I like, and none of the pitching actually.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that the Twins definitely make some sense. One, I don't really love their lineup. That's part of my issue. 2, they have 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from center. Not my favorite. But they're on my list. Like you said, the first one that I actually thought of. And for what it's worth, they are affordable, even if you're not playing them. And it is coming in from dead center right now. So there's an argument that maybe it's not going to affect if you just dead pull the ball. You might have Kirilloff in there at 2,800 for value. Kepler's 3,800, probably going to be batting cleanup. It's not a beautiful lineup, but Julian is pretty good. They have some good young guys. It's with no Buxton and no. They do have Correa projected to be in today. I guess Correa and Polanco are in there. Yeah, maybe I will get to the Twins. I have them a little further back for me, but definitely the first one that I had any interest in whatsoever. So, all right, jump into the Houston, and what do we do? What do we do here, Sheets? Houston and KC. Your team.
I have Houston as the top stack right now. I have 4 of them, but I have Houston as one of them. And I also have Javier as playable as well. So in addition to that, I do have Kansas City as one of the top value stacks as well, as always, pretty much. So I have three of the prongs of this game, and that's it.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
I like this game a lot.
Yeah, Houston, and as I always say, like if we had a million great options, prefer to have a Houston 3-man to a 5-man, just because Greinke doesn't tend to walk people, which doesn't let the game get quite as out of hand as you'd really want it to. But this is Houston; they can knock him out of the game in a few innings. It's definitely possible. Javier, oh man, he's just not been right for a while. Like this seems like a really good spot to use him, and it just. I don't know that I'm going to. So he's on my list, but he's not all that high. And I think Javier 7,900 against KC. I do think there is plenty of upside for him in this matchup. It just has been weird to see him sort of lose it a little bit. And as you alluded to, Houston being the best stack. The great thing about the best stack is it's not like they're going to be crazy owned, right? Like they're going to have more ownership than they're currently projected for. But I've only got right now. One or two guys maybe to be over 10%. I like that. I'm into the Houston idea. Sign me up. Same page with you so far. So now we get to
what is Houston's bullpen? Do they have a good bullpen?
Yes.
Okay, because I was going to comment that Kansas City again. They do well against bad bullpens, but so maybe that's going to temper my expectations of Houston.
No, but I mean Kansas City. Sure, you're going to have some cheap pieces in the lineup. The problem I have with Kansas City is that the guys, the top three who I really want, the Garcia, Witt, and Perez are no longer like Garcia's gone up in price. Perez is getting closer to his normal price. And then you get into the Melendez, Olivares, the guys Massey, the guys with somewhat limited power, but I mean, you can talk myself into it. It's nice hitting weather there. It's 80 degrees with a little bit of wind blowing out. One of the first good hitting spots we've seen so far. All right, next up we have Philadelphia, St. Louis.
No, I have Washington, Milwaukee, and no excuse.
That was entirely my bad because I had already clicked on it and I was ahead of myself. So,
it's fair enough because I have the game a complete pass, but.
Okay. Because I think this is a game where I could consider a little bit of offense possibly.
Okay.
You've got especially the Brewers side of it. I'm not going to stack against Miley. I'll just point out that I think Keeper Ruiz is reasonable as a catching option. Jake Irvin has actually pitched well enough to where he should be in play at 6,400 if you wanted to do that. At the same time, I don't think he's good enough, and the bullpen is so bad behind him that we might see another one of those Milwaukee explosions. And I am on board with the Milwaukees today. Not to mention that. You have a bunch of mid-range plays in their thing. Willie Adames at 4,400, Santana at 3,800, batting third most likely. Frelick is 3,800. There's just a lot in the mid-tier or low mid-tier that I think makes sense. So I'm totally good with the idea of a Milwaukee stack today. All right, let's see. So Milwaukee and Houston are the only two I've liked so far. All right, why don't you start off the Philadelphia, St. Louis, since I tried to jump the gun.
Yeah, so I had mentioned that there's one pitcher that I thought was like a little bit of a fishy chalk, and then there was like a whole bunch of guys I liked, and none of them were probably the best pitchers on the slate. And so I don't have Nola anywhere, and it's kind of concerning to me, especially considering St. Louis usually like to play righties against them, and Nola can obviously bring it. I just don't have him projected all that well, so I'll pass on him for now. I have Thompson as kind of a okay cheapo. I'm still not convinced of what I'm really paying up for. I guess maybe Houston. So I'm just not sure exactly why I'm spending down quite yet. But Thompson looks like just kind of an okay cheapo. And as far as the hitting goes on the other side, I actually do like the Philly side. I don't know what the weather's going to be like over there. But I do like Philly as one of my top 4, actually top 7 stacks or so.
So Nola's my favorite GPP play on the slate. I think people who shy away from this are making a mistake based on a few bad outings. I will point out that 4 starts ago against the same team, he put up 36.5 fantasy points. He has faced them 4 times in his career. They have scored a grand total of, I believe, 3 runs or 2 runs in 4 starts. Not to say that's a huge amount, but they literally haven't touched him. He hasn't walked any of them, and he's got a 30% or 28% K rate. That's all good enough for me to take the unowned potentially best pitcher, one of the best pitchers on the slate. I love the idea of getting different with spending up on, and it's not like you're spending that much up compared to some of the other guys we're talking about. So sign me up for Nola. He's the first guy I see as a get different play that I could definitely get on board with. I would certainly even consider him on FanDuel, even with one pitcher things. If he gets it going, he can be dominant. And just remember, it is Milwaukee at home. I'm sorry, it is St. Louis at home, so they probably put out their good lineup. But we're running into that time of year where don't be surprised if you see a bunch of lineup shifts and a bunch of weird stuff from teams that are out of contention.
Or teams that have it locked up. I had freaking Dodgers the other night. They let Mookie and Freeman bat twice.
Wait, what's that?
And also teams that have it wrapped up. I had teams have wrapped up. I had freaking the Dodgers the other night, and with a shot, and Mookie and Freeman, they let them bat twice each.
Right. That's what you got to do. That's the frustrating part of this time of year. Sheets, is it weird that there's no Phillies showing up for us though? I mean, I know that Thompson makes some sense and he's been good.
The problem is everybody's expensive. That's the only thing.
Yeah, I'm still gonna keep an eye on them.
Ludo 5,200, Harper 5,900.
Yeah, they're pricey.
Turner over 6K. I mean, that's tough. Castellanos is all right, 4,800, I suppose.
Yeah, and and I guess I can talk myself. The way that everyone's going to talk themselves out of it is that Thompson's actually been pretty good, and he has been. But he does have trouble with control, and I love playing Philadelphia against teams with guys who have control problems because they have enough patient hitters in their lineup where they can just sort of keep the lineup moving around. It's just that they are expensive. But I'm going to put Philly on my secondary list of teams to consider. Oh, thanks a lot, Brandon. I appreciate it. We had a fun little sweat there, didn't we? Because Brandon and I were flopping in the $33 for 50
nice
last night, so it's kind of fun. And Brandon's been great. He's been posting his exposures on the showdown slates, which people have really enjoyed. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, we'll jump over to San Francisco, Colorado now. Sheets, take it away. What are we doing in the Colorado game?
I mean, San Francisco looks really good. I imagine they're going to be popular unless they all got priced up somehow, but they didn't. So, yeah, I mean, the same as usual. I mean, listen, one thing is that it is a big old slate. So if you really like them,
yeah,
maybe ownership gets diluted a little bit just from people just playing a lot of stuff. And so far, I honestly haven't been particularly enthralled with any team. Like Houston, and then the only thing. So you only liked one of the Milwaukee game, and best thing I could come up with like a Minnesota game. So far, San Francisco's a tough fade for me until we get maybe some of these other games later. But they look pretty good to me. I'll just say that. I'm not getting to Colorado. I'm not going to play any Logan Webb either. So I mean, San Francisco happens to look pretty good to me.
Yep, I'm gonna play some San Francisco for what. Just again, if you want to do the Coors fade, 64 degrees in Colorado is not 90 degrees in Colorado, so there's that. But there is a little wind blowing out to right field. I just want to throw it out there because when it's 90 degrees out there, I find it like impossible to fade. I like this. I also don't think you're necessarily going to have crazy ownership. And one thing you can do that's kind of cool, San Francisco is like Haniger, Davis. The guys who start off games against a righty obviously aren't getting pinch hit for if they bring a lefty in. So I like the idea of getting to some of their righties, and I think that they're actually going to be the lower owned of the bunch because like JD Davis will be down towards the bottom of the lineup. But if you're going to make a stack, I would try to make sure to include some of those bottom of the lineup guys, just to get a little different. As of right now, though, again, not showing a ton of like they're going to be owned. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like every player on their team is going to be 15%. I think you're going to see like half the guys, like 4 or 5 guys in the 15% range, and everybody else like in the 6 or 7% range. So that's enough to where I can at least consider them on a big slate. And I'm not getting to any Colorado either. And then I'll jump in with my thoughts just real quickly on this Angels-Detroit situation. Both these pitchers are guys who have a range of outcomes. I think that playing Skubal is very dangerous. He's so good, though, I want to play him. The problem is they're not going to let him extend anything unless he's really got a game going. We've seen this every year with him specifically and with other pitchers for the Tigers. They really don't let him go crazy. They've let him pitch 95, 97 pitches every start he's had lately, but that's because he's been absolutely cruising. if he gets into any trouble or has like a little, something in his hand feels funny, he's coming out of the game. You know what I mean? It's just important to remember that this time of year for teams that have nothing to play for and still have these, the guys who are part of their future. But he's so good, I can't keep him off my list. And Griffin Canning is going to be the chalkiest pitcher on the slate. And against Detroit, it certainly makes sense. This game is a 7.5 total. And I just feel like that doesn't feel like the right thing to do. So I like both these pitchers. I don't like their ownership given the size of the slate. But I am definitely having them in the mix. I just don't know where I'm going to end up on them. How about you?
Yeah, it's kind of annoying because, like, on the surface, Griffin Canning doesn't sound like a guy you want to play as the chalkiest pitcher, but he's been good, and Detroit's terrible, and it's righty versus this, So I'm not going out of my way to fade him. Let's put it that way. He does look like a good play, and again, like looking at the rest of the slate, like nothing has been great. You know what I mean?
That's the problem.
Yeah, so it is a problem. So far of the pitchers that we've talked about, I think so far the best idea that I've heard is one that's not even on my list, and it's just a freaking play Nolan, be done with it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. like forget the points per dollar, forget all the other stuff, forget the figuring out whether Peterson, Lugo, or Thompson is. You know what I mean? Like whatever, and just don't worry about the Giolito. Just play Nolan, just be over it. You know what I mean? That's so far that's been my favorite recommendation. It's none of the 9 pitchers that I listed, So
right.
But Canning does look like a very solid play. Skubal's an interesting one because the point that you made is very, very valid because a lot of the playability of guys like Skubal comes from when he doesn't have his best, but they leave him in to get the strikeouts anyway. If you're right about the Tigers trying to conserve these guys down the stretch, you don't get the 100 pitches unless, like you said, unless he's really cruising. But you can make the argument that in big GPPs, that's what you want. Like you want the guy to be cruising anyway, and then one pile on the other. So I'm probably going to play him. I'll probably play both these guys, honestly. But to play both of them with San Francisco,
I certainly wouldn't play both of them together. I think that's a really
either of them. You know what I mean? To play either of them, with San Francisco.
Yeah.
It just seems like eating a little too much ownership. But they do both look on the surface like good tools.
I agree. And to give Detroit credit, they've let him go. But just remember, they've let him go to 95 pitches. But he's been literally like awesome. That's why he's been let go.
All right. So this next. Okay. So this is where some upside comes from. Okay. So you have San Diego against S. Newcomb. Oh. So you want a team that's high priced that can put up a lot of runs. This is San Diego. So if you're asking what you're going to pivot off of San Francisco for besides Houston, this is the next one as far as I'm concerned. And it looks good. I mean, they're not going to rate as well as some of these as San Francisco because their price. But this is the very natural pivot as far as I'm concerned. Lugo is not a guy, as far as pitcher goes. Lugo's not a guy I tend to prioritize unless there's really very few other options. And it's interesting. I mean, he's had some good games, but he's had some big old fat clunkers as well. So it's a good matchup. I'll probably end up getting to him in general, but if I'm like hand building and figure who I'm going to play my big GPP, there's just for me has to be a better option than Lugo.
Yeah. For me, my feeling is that playing him at 8,600 feels wrong. Also, but playing pitchers against the A's feels right. I don't think there's a whole lot of ceiling for this 8,600. Like I think you're like 25 fantasy points sort of ceiling. And look, you'd be happy with 25 fantasy points. But the other guys we mentioned with Skubal can get to 35. You know what I mean? Canning can probably get to 30. Nola can certainly get to 40. You know what I mean? If I'm going to play the overall slate, I would probably be a little lower on Lugo. But he's another guy who's on my list without priorities. And I think that, we have another one to talk about in a second. But I'm okay with the San Diego idea. It's a little, they have nothing to play for. They just came out of a series against the Dodgers where they wanted to play their guys until the last day. They didn't play Machado and Kim, I believe.
They are relatively cheap.
San Diego.
Yeah, I mean, no one's over 6K. I mean, this is the new price structure,
All
right?
5Ks. Yeah, but that's because they suck. I mean, I know they've hit the ball a couple times lately, but like these guys have underperformed all year. It's not like, I mean, even I could argue that their price is too high.
Okay.
I mean, Kim is 49. Tatis is a great play at 57 and just any time. Sure. Yeah, I'm okay with. I like them. I just wanted to give the other argument of maybe why they're not as much fun tonight. Coming off of a competitive series, who knows who they end up playing? We might not get their lineup till late, although it is 6:40, not a 7 o'clock game. But they've been very late with their lineups a number of times. Yeah, I can get behind the San Diego idea. I do think that Tatis is going to be. I think San Diego may end up being as popular as Houston if you round out the whole stack together. Just for
you would think, right? I mean, what else are you going to play? I mean, if as high priced guys, you know.
Yep. All right, and then we get the other lowest total of the night in the last game. Oh no, we don't. Sorry, we go to Arizona. We go to Arizona first. You start off with Arizona here.
So as I was mentioning, you know, like I have like 9 pitchers, and none of them have the best pitcher on the slate. Justin Steele. Is he going to win the Cy Young?
You know, I haven't looked at the recent Cy Young odds. I should probably check it out. He certainly should be in consideration for it if he's not.
It's possible.
He's been awesome.
And yet, I don't have him as a top GPP play. Boy, imagine that. Imagine if you just like said, you know, forget all this Griffin Cannings and whatever, and just play Nola and Steele together, and just like, and then just somehow make it work with some cheapos from, I don't know, from Minnesota or Kansas City or something like that. Just take you need a lot of guys to fail though if you play like that. You know, like of all the guys I mentioned, between the Scooble and the Canning and the Tom and the Giolito and the Javier and the Lugos, if you're going to pay $20,000 for those 2 guys, I mean, that's usually not my thing. I'm not getting to either of the hitting. And before I move on, people have been playing this fat guy a couple of times. I don't know if this is the slate for it, but from what I heard, he's not bad. I don't know. You like anything in this game?
So I love the idea, but what you mentioned was the first thing I thought of when I looked at this slate. I'm like, okay, well, I have all these pitchers that all look like whatever. Can I just play Steele and Nola?
No, right.
I mean, you want look on these kind of slates. You want to play upside anyway. I mean, Steele. What is his last 3 games? 29, 43, and 22.
And good. And by the way, the point that I kind of raised by accident was that he's pitching for a Cy Young.
Yeah, and the problem is Arizona. He just faced Arizona, so it's back-to-back against Arizona, which I don't love. Arizona is good against lefties, so I don't love that. It's a little worrisome to me, but I am probably going to do it. I'm definitely going to have a Steele Nola lineup. It's just a matter of whether I make it my highest buy-in lineup. No interest in PFAT. I think this is a strange spot, though. Like, I put the Cubs on my list pretty high, or FOT, or however we want to pronounce it. First of all, I don't think he's that good. I also think the Cubs are going to get a little bit of ownership. I think the Cubs' offense is awesome. I wish the roof was open. It was not going to be open. And there is some pinch hit risk with some of the Cubs, but I actually don't even know who that's going to be. Pete Kerr, Armstrong, I guess, would be a pinch hit risk, assuming that he's in the lineup. I'm sure he will be. But I'll tell you one thing, just to note, Cody Bellinger, when he goes back to Arizona, an Arizona kid, for whatever reason, it shouldn't matter in baseball, but every time, I'm telling you, as a Dodger fan, the guy just rakes in Arizona for whatever reason.
So I have, it's so funny. I have a video that I'm going to send you. I know you have to go at 1, right? I don't want to spend too much time on this.
Yeah, no, we're fine.
This requires a 3-minute story because I forgot to send you the raw footage because I tried to upload to YouTube and it violated 75 different copyright laws, so they didn't let me. So I was watching the Cubs play. They were playing. I forgot who they were playing, but I have the clip. And the announcer was. I mean, I can't believe the announcer was like so good. He was like Bellinger was up, and the announcer was talking like the whole time about like the work that the hitting coach was doing with him on a specific thing. And this pitcher was throwing him like these high sliders or something, and he kept fouling him off. And the announcer was so funny. He said, well, this is like the exact thing that he was doing during hitting practice. He kept on throwing him all these sliders to try to work on this. I hope the pitcher doesn't throw him another one because this is what's going to happen. And they threw him another slider, and Cody hit it out, okay? And he's rounding the base paths. And then as he gets across the plate, he like basically tips his hat and nods to the hitting coach. who was like in the free, just the knowledge of the announcer to like be on top of all that was really freaking insane. Nonetheless, you mentioned Cody, and I knew I had a video literally titled Cody that I wouldn't upload to YouTube because of copyright violations. You got to get these some other way. Yeah. So okay, let's move on. I'll start with the LA Seattle game. Good luck to you. I'm not playing the Dodgers anymore. Dodgers are going to be very hurtful to me when I play these guys and they all get pinch hit for. And I shouldn't say I'm never going to play them. I'm not playing them against Kirby, and I'm not playing them with pinch hit guys against Kirby. So someone else can play that, probably you. As a matter of fact,
in all fairness, they've scored like 7 or more runs 3 out of the last
5. It wasn't like they had 10. Okay?
What's that?
They had 5 runs in that game, I think.
No, they scored the game before last, where they win the game, they didn't rest anybody. They scored 11, then they scored 8, then they scored 7, they scored 10. Those are their last 4 out of 5.
In any case, I think Kirby's enough for me to keep me off the Dodgers. I don't have, and again, he's another guy I don't have rated well at all, Kirby, and I'm just not. I don't think I'm going to do it. Bobby Miller, I have listed as kind of like the last play on my board that I'll consider, and he's got over 20 a couple of times, including a very, very, very nice game against the Braves. I don't know how much they're going to let him go or whatever, but I like playing righties against Seattle. I don't like playing anybody against Seattle in general, but if I'm going to play someone against Seattle, it'll be a righty. Yeah. Is he any worse than Lugo, for example, as far as I'm concerned?
He's significantly better pitcher than Lugo by a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I'm even on this slate, yeah. So I don't know. I might take a shot at the Bobby Miller, and that's pretty much all I have here.
Yeah, it seems like it's gearing up for playoff time for Miller, and they let him throw 99 pitches his last outing. I don't know if they're going to let him do that. Maybe one more time this year they'll let him do that. Okay. Just because we're getting into the real home stretch here. I think Bobby Miller is totally fine. I would put him a little ahead of Lugo. Well, it's just they're playing. I mean, it's the Oakland, so it throws me off on that. So I've got I'm going through this whole thing. I don't have much in this game. I really don't, and I also think look, if one thing about Kirby being around the plate, you could argue that definitely increases the chance of home runs. And he's given up, a good number of home runs this year. He's a really good pitcher. I don't really want to stack, but I'm not going to fault anybody if they wanted to play like a little Dodger 3-man, depending on how the lineup comes out. It's just probably not going to be me tonight. And again, I do like Miller. So I've got my priorities. I mean, I like Miller, but he's not a priority. My priorities.
Wait. Before you go on, I just want to confirm something. Yeah. The last game when they pinch hit for both these guys, they were losing 6-1.
It was one at bat in the bottom of the 8th inning. That's really all we're talking about, though. It was one at bat in the bottom of the 8th. And they didn't pinch hit; they pinch fielded. They would never pinch hit for them.
Okay.
Yeah. But that was just one game. I mean, that was the.
I know. I heard.
Was that yesterday? Was it yesterday?
2 days ago.
2 days ago. Yeah, right. All right. So I've got for pitching, I'm totally I like the Giolito, Green, Nola, Steele for upside. I think the safer plays, which aren't even totally safe, but Canning and Skubal would be the safer ones. And then you get Barrios, Peterson, Lugo, and Miller to choose from. So I'm going to probably err on the side of playing more Green, Nola, Steele, Giolito. That's probably what I'm going to do. And then for stacks, because I'm doing that, I'm also able to play the Giants because I'm doing different, and I'm doing different with upside. So I actually have Houston number 1, Giants number 2, Milwaukee number 3, San Diego number 4, Cubs number 5. But by the end of the day, that could be shifted a little bit. But I really like the top 4, especially Houston, San Francisco, Milwaukee, and San Diego. And the Milwaukee's the really get different play that I don't see anyone doing.
Yeah, for me, it's a matter of pricing. So the spend ups will be San Diego, Philly, and Houston. The spend downs would be Minnesota and KC. San Francisco, I guess you consider that a spend down. And I did have the Cubs kind of circled here as a possibility too. I don't know why I didn't bring that up when you talked about them before. So I don't know. Cubs are probably pretty expensive, right? They usually are.
The Cubs are expensive. Yeah. Let me see what they did. Actually, I didn't double check because they were leaving Coors, but yeah, they left him up pretty high up there.
Yep.
Yeah, really expensive. All right, so we will be live at 6 Eastern. Wish all you guys luck. Please like the videos. Also check out all the new deals we have for all the premium content and everything on the site. And good luck to everyone today.